Hello, kindergarten. Well, I have that story I talked about today when we were doing our phonics lesson with our names to read. This is the story of Big Al. And Al is this fish. Look at how short his name is. 2 letters, A-L. And this story is written by Andrew Clements. And it's one of my favorites. And I think it has a nice message for all of us. And kind of fun to see other people's names. Wait a minute, maybe Al, A-L, has some of the same letters as you do in your name. Let's get reading. We can see it takes place under the water in the ocean. Big Al. In the wide blue sea, there was a very friendly fish named Big Al. You could not find a nicer fish. But Big Al was also very, very scary. Look at Al. Other fish seemed to have at least one friend. Some of them had many, but Big Al had none. He did not really blame the other fish. How could he be expected to have friends when he was a big fish with big eyes and ugly skin and teeth like this? He is a little scary looking, isn't he? And all these other fish, bright and colorful and smooth. But Big Al really wanted friends, so he worked at it. Ooh, that's a great thing to do. First, he tried wrapping himself up in seaweed. He thought it was a great disguise, but no one else did. Who wants to stop and talk to a floating plant that has big, sharp teeth? Look at Al. Pretty good idea, but it didn't seem to work out. Oh boy, now let's see what Al's up to. Then he thought that if he puffed himself up big and round, and the other fish would laugh at him, and they would see how clever and silly Al could be. All they saw was how big he could be, and they all stayed clear. Very early one morning, Big Al went down to the bottom and flopped and wriggled himself into the sand until he was almost covered up. Can you see him, boys and girls, down there? There he is, down in the sand, covered up almost all the way except for those big eyes. He looked much smaller, and when the other fish came near, Big Al talked and joked with them, and they all had a delightful time. But then one scratchy little grain of sand got stuck in his gills, and he sneezed. When the clouds of sand cleared away, all of the fish were gone. There he is sneezing, and oh my goodness, everybody left. Big Al even changed his color one day so he could look like he belonged to the school of tiny fish passing by. He bubbled along with all of them for a while, laughing and feeling like he was just one of the crowd. But he was so big and clumsy that when all the tiny fish started to the left, Big Al just plowed straight ahead. He went bumping and thumping right into the little fish. Before he could even say, "Excuse me," they were gone. And all alone was Al again. Just when Big Al was starting to be sure that he would never, ever have a single friend, something happened. He was floating along sadly, watching some of the smaller fish, and he was wishing they would come closer. As he watched, a net dropped silently from above, and in an instant, all those fish were caught. Look at Al. He is very concerned. I wonder what's going to happen. Seems like there's a little problem here. Big Al forgot all about being lonely, and he forgot all about being sad. His eyes bulged out bigger and rounder than ever, and with a mighty flip of his tail, he opened his mouth and charged straight at the net. The net was strong, but Big Al was stronger. He ripped right through it, and all the fish rushed out of the little hole. So there they go. Oh, he does look ferocious, doesn't he? What a great friend Al is. But when Big Al tried to turn around and go out of the hole, he got all tangled up in the net, and he was stuck. The net went higher and higher toward the bright surface of the sea, and the little fish watched as Big Al disappeared above them. When the little fish were able to speak again, all they talked about was the huge, wonderful fish that had saved them. How great to be free! But what a shame that that big fellow had to get captured. So now these fish are having compassion, and they're thinking about Al, the big fish that got captured. Just then, there was a tremendous crashing splash from above, and all the small fish dashed away. Was it the net again? Not at all. It was Big Al. Those fishermen took one look at him and they threw him right back in the ocean. So even the fishermen didn't want to have Big Al. Lucky for Al, though, right? Now he's back swimming in the ocean. Let's kind of see how this ends up. It's a fun story, isn't it? Beautiful picture right here. Ooh, look at those illustrations. And now there was one huge, puffy, scary, fierce-looking fish in the sea who has more friends than anyone else. So now Al gets to be in the ocean with all of those fish, and they're not afraid of him because they know he was just another fish. He just looked a little different. And there they all are with Al swimming in the middle. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story and keep practicing your name and finding those letters all over. Thanks for listening.